Hey, Blue Collar Millionaires, we've got Nic Zerfas with us today. He's going to tell us how to keep it cool because he has purchased a business that's all about keeping it cool. Nic, appreciate you coming on the show today. Tell us what got you. Take us back to a point to where you can kind of get us up to where you are present day, and what got you there.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to tell you all about my first business venture here. So probably take it back to like my high school or just after high school. Always been a blue collar guy, building houses, working with general contractors in my local area here. And then I wanted to go to school to be a millwright. There's a lot of iron ore mining up in my area in northern Minnesota here. So a lot of people end up going, working in there. Then I actually found out about the elevator union. So I went to millwright school for a semester, dropped out, went and got on the list to join the elevator union. Moved down to the Twin Cities, did that for a couple of years, and always had that entrepreneurial itch coming after me. My then girlfriend, now wife's father, owned a lumberyard building supply dealer up in my hometown. And he was looking for another guy to come work the sales floor. I said, well, if we can talk about an ownership possibility eventually, I will come up and do it. I said, I'm not going to leave this cush job, working hard, but making good money, great benefits, to just come up there and sit in your office for you. So he said, yep, sounds good. I moved back. And he's always built houses. It was, my wife never lived in the same house for more than 2 years. They would build it with the material from the lumberyard, live in it for a couple of years, sell it, make good money, and do it again.
Yeah.
So I watched him do that while we were growing up, and yeah, and then he kind of pushed me a little bit to after I was working there to buy a house, a fixer-upper. Started flipping a few houses. Then I'm like, well, why don't I get my real estate license? Went and got my real estate license. Been a realtor for a couple of years now as well. And then just, I guess I started buying real estate, and then kind of started hearing about this whole buying a business thing. Have some buddies in the area who have started businesses, and it's like, that seems really cool. Just the scalability of it was so exciting to me, like leading a team and being able to push people to go scale a business always seemed exciting. So one of my buddies, who is actually has a property services company, we've been chatting and like looking at a few different businesses. And he actually ended up stumbling upon this ice company. So we closed on that just before Labor Day, end of May, and we're running full force ahead. So,
Dude, that's awesome. How long have you known your buddy that you partnered up with?
Well, I've known him actually a lot longer than I actually knew him. We went to elementary school together at a private elementary school and had no idea because I moved out of the area shortly after that. But we've been talking business for a couple of years.
And what made you want to partner up with him? Did y'all have diverse skill sets, or you kind of had the same skill sets? Like, what was the understanding of, yeah, let's do this together?
Yeah, so I am kind of the bulldog out there, like, hey, we got to get this stuff moving, we got to get this stuff done. And he's more analytical, thinks things through a little more, and it runs the back end of his business very, very well. And that's what I need in my business, is somebody who can slow down, look at things a little more carefully instead of just ramming into some stuff.
Dude, how much of your time at this point is required with the business since you're really. Actually, let me pull back for a second. Did he go full time on the ice business, or do y'all still keep your day jobs and y'all part time this business together?
So we both have our day jobs. He's got himself scaled out of his property services company pretty well. He's not in the day to day as much. And I'm still 50-50. We've got our employees going, we've got truck drivers and the guys in the plant working on that. But I don't know, I would say that I work maybe 20 hours a week on that business.
Gotcha. What is that business? How long has it been in business, and what made that owner want to sell?
Well, that business has actually been in business since the late 70s. This owner, he's the third owner, I believe, of it. He has, he's owned it for 13 years. Just kind of got to a point, and he was in the day to day, every day, working in it for 5 months out of the year. I mean, that's what we crank for 5 months a year. Obviously, up here in Minnesota, it gets a little cold. So he just got burned out. He's burned out. He runs a real estate business as well. And got a couple kids, wants to start spending more time with them, and wants to do something else with his time and money. So
tell me about, how many trucks, what's your and your partner's role in the business right now, and what do y'all hope to see it be a year from now?
Yeah, so we've got 5 employees. We've got 2 truck drivers. We own 3 trucks. We've got 2 truck drivers. Right now, we're able to handle most of our routes with just 1 truck running daily. And then holidays, 4th of July, that stuff, we've got, 2 or 3 trucks on the road, just driving in circles, filling people up. So we're small. It's a small ice company, but we know that there's a ton of potential for growth in our area. There's nobody else around. One of the other plants, the closest independent plant to us, just burned down beginning of the year. So that's kind of, and then there's 3 guys in the plant that are working on bagging ice.
Guys, I got a question, but are you hearing the big echo, especially on Chris?
Yeah, there's an echo.
I'm not hearing any echo.
It's almost hard to understand.
You don't have echo now. Can you still hear us, Nick?
Yeah, that's much better. All right, let's do that.
Yep.
All right, that's much better. Nick, how do you grow the ice business? What's the plan?
Well, that was on my schedule this week, yesterday. So we have about 100 accounts in, I don't know, I would say about a 40-mile radius of the ice plant. Right now, that's about the furthest we go. But hit that 45-mile mark, there's a whole nother tertiary market of us that is being supplied from even further away than we are from them. But the previous owner, they've come to us many, many times like, hey, will you guys supply us? Will you guys supply us? Well, the previous owner never wanted to scale into that area because it's going to take more than 1 truck on the road every day. We're going to have to get a second truck, a couple more guys running to go take over that market. But I was actually just over there yesterday having conversations with them, and it sounds like it's going to be easy. They're all, we're having nothing but problems with our current supplier. They're always running us out. That was the quick feedback I got after just stopping in a couple of smaller chain gas stations.
So is that your avatar, like a gas station? Like, what does a client need from you, and what do you do, and how do you deliver?
Yeah, so our avatar is gas stations, liquor stores. Those are the main ones. We do a little bit in bars and restaurants, some of the smaller resorts, but our money makers are the gas stations and liquor stores, and they just need consistent supply. So and that's our big thing in our current market to our current customers is, if you're out, we're getting a second truck on the road to get over there and fill you up. It's not, hey, we'll be back next Friday, because it's a short season. If people, liquor stores out of ice for a couple days, we're losing sales. So that's the big thing for us is providing the service. Ice is ice. You fill a bag with ice and you go bring it over there. People don't care typically. You don't want crumbles of ice, but the cubes matter. But that's kind of industry standard in the ice makers now.
So how do you manage inventory? Are they just checking their machines and then they call you and say, hey, we need ice delivered, and then you just pop it on the schedule for the next day? Or do y'all have a routine schedule, and then if they call for an emergency fill up, you can do that?
Yeah, so we've got routine schedules. They're the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday routes, and then it's if somebody calls, say, hey, we're getting low. That's what we try to have, that communication open with them. Give us a call, let us know where you're at, and you start to get a gauge after just a couple months we've been running it here. You start to get a gauge on, hey, big weekend, this event's going on up here. We got to watch this gas station. They're gonna run out this weekend. So we got to have a crew ready to go Saturday morning, hop on the truck and get over there because they're gonna run out Friday night.
So go ahead, Kevin.
I was going to say, what happens to your drivers and your employees during those other months?
So our plant guys, the guys that are working on bag and ice, high school help. So the fall comes around, they're going back to work or back to school. And then that's one thing that we're working on as well for our truck drivers, because that's a problem that we foresee as we scale this business is how do we keep our employees around? Because if we're going to lay them off every winter, there aren't a ton of guys out there that are happy with that. You can find out. We've got a guy, actually two of our guys right now. Hey, I'll take layoff for the winter. That's fine. Just run on unemployment, and they're good with it. But as we continue to scale, it's what can we do through the winter months to keep them more busy, more full time. So we're kind of looking at some options of maybe picking up some contracts to just be trucking for people, like some of the grocery stores around the area that do transfer trucks between stores, frozen pizza delivery. We got a bunch of ideas that we're kind of looking at to just pick up small contracts through the winter months to keep one or two guys busy.
That's interesting. That was my first thought, is you had that refrigerated truck as an asset. So if you could utilize it in another portion of the frozen food industry, that would keep it going. How is the numbers looking? Did you get seller financing? Did you go to bank? Did y'all pay cash? Can you dive into that as detailed as you feel free to?
Yeah. So I would say we did well with our terms for sure. We got a little piece of seller financing. We did go to the bank, and we've got some private money involved. So we got the whole 9 yards. So we bought it for basically, it was better than asset and real estate value. So we didn't pay. There no need for SBA financing or anything like that. We were able to just go to a credit union. They would do 80-20 financing on the real estate, 80-20 financing on the assets, and we got the seller to carry 15% back at 1% interest for 10 years with a 5-year balloon.
Nice.
So he's a huge help to us in the day-to-day, just keeping us. And that was a big part of this. This seller was super cool to work with the whole time, and still to this day. I mean, he's, hey, don't forget this. We've got to, make sure you're watching this, and it's been huge.
I think people missed. You bought it for less than the real estate and assets.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. It
Yeah.
happens all the time.
Yeah. And
Just
I mean, yeah, it was awesome.
and it's good for that guy because that's just how it goes. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten that or even much less or nothing. But I mean, how can you lose when you're buying it for less than the assets in real estate? You can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good deal. And he wanted 1.5 million for it. We ended up at 1.2 was the purchase price. The real estate was worth 600,000, and actually after the bank ran their ran the assets appraisal, that came in at like 800,000, and we paid 600 for those as well. So
that's awesome. I love how that deal broke down with getting the assets.
And we've got a bunch to do. We've got to upgrade equipment and do that over the years. But I mean, we're fully functioning as it sits. Obviously, that comes with any business that you're going to scale.
What is your margin for ICE? Your net? You said above or less?
Say that again.
Are you at a 20% net profits or above that or less than that?
Above that. I mean, so gross, I can run through it. Gross, the last 3-year gross was like between 400 and 450,000. The SDE was between 220 and 250.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, there's good margins there, and I think we should be able to keep that as we scale.
Yeah, so the scale plan is to get into the market next to you, which is a little over 45 miles away.
Yep.
Y'all will be the closest vendor for that next market. How much revenue do you project you'll pull from that market next to you?
I think we could do, realistically, I mean, if we go from 45 miles to 60 miles, we could damn near double.
Wow, that's awesome.
In that market. They're just as big as our market right here.
So
that we service already.
What's your plan to keep the debt service paid while y'all are not in operation if you don't get contracts with the trucks?
We make enough in the 5 months that we are. I mean, we ran our cash flow out, as we make our lump of money, and then it's sit on it and pay the bills for the 5 months. And that's not the plan, but if that's what happens, we're fine.
I like it, man. So how did y'all get this deal? What brought this? You said you stumbled across it.
Yeah. So like I said, me and my partner had looked at a couple, deals around the open market, garage door companies, some cleaning companies, stuff like that. Nothing really ever penciled out, but he was shopping for a shop for his property services company, and had put a bug in a few people's ears, and all of a sudden the owner of this place is calling him. So there's the ice plant, and then behind there's I don't know what it is, 60 by 80 shop out back that he's released out to some HVAC guys and keeps his personal stuff in there. And he's like, hey, I got this shop for you if you want to, rent it for your property services company. And they had been talking and kind of let him know that, hey, we've been kind of shopping for businesses. And he's like, well, you want to buy the whole thing? And he called me up. He's like, hey, what do you think about the ice company? I'm like, I don't know. Let's look at it. Let's kind of, I don't know anything about that industry. But let's look at it and see what it does. And it ended up working out for us. So
that's awesome.
What about your competitors in that new area? Do you know who they are, and is there a possibility that you could roll them up, buy them up?
So they're so it's Lakeshore Ice. They just got bought out by Arctic Glacier. which is one of the national companies. And that's kind of what happens in this industry is the independents get big enough and then the national companies come in and buy them out. So not that competitor, but I told you about the one that burned down. There's going to be a ton of opportunity over there because Arctic Glacier is now servicing that territory. But that's coming out of 3 hours away. They're trucking that ice in. So whether it's an opportunity to just grow in our current spot, but most likely that will be building a new facility closer to that market, and that should be able to, that market and another market that we can hit with that plant would be able to probably triple or quadruple the size of what we are.
And what would Arctic you could possibly sell to them down the road?
Yeah. We could. They do a lot of that where they have the independents bag for them, and then they sell the accounts. Or co-packing, I guess is what that's called. But then you're selling at wholesale cost, so we'd rather just get the customers ourselves and sell directly to them. But I think you're talking about the business in itself, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it go when you go into these gas stations to sell to them? Is it easy? Is an easy thing, or are you reaching out to them on phone? How do you get more?
You can reaching out on phone. That's what I stopped in a couple of these places, got the owner's phone number, called them up. Hey, this is what we're looking at. We're just getting a game plan together, seeing if you guys are interested. And it was an astounding yes from a few different places. So now it's just, we got to make our investment into buying more boxes, and then getting a couple more employees, getting the trucks on the road. It's going to be a spring thing for us. Game plan it, stick the money into, we got to buy $100,000 worth of merchandisers, just to get started over there. So.
I love businesses that you walk in, you already know they need it, they're using it, and then they're open to listening to you because it's a pain point, because it's not going that well.
Yeah.
It's like that's how I do business. When I find that, like I get so excited to get on the road every day.
Yeah, that's exactly
it's very
what it was.
different. You're the only guy who's going to do that too.
Yeah. I mean, I was just excited driving over there, and I pull up to the first place, Holiday gas station, open up the ice box, empty. Walk in, hey, I see your ice box is empty. I'm Nick.
Yeah.
I can help you.
I mean, you could clean up. I love your plan. I mean, you could just be doing that all day, load that up, and then make a bunch of money and have the option to sell.
Yeah, that's the goal. I don't know what the time frame is on it, but we our goal number is a $10 million company. So if we can hit that number, and I think that we can, pretty easily. I mean, it's just, before I didn't know enough even when I bought this, when we first bought it. It's like, now that I know what I know now, I'm like, that's easy, because when these national companies come in and buy these independents out, the service always goes to shit. It never. People are always going to be run out of ice, and these people are used to dealing with independents where they can pick the phone up and talk to the owner or the manager and talk about their issues. Instead, these guys just say, "No, we'll be there next week." That's all we can do. So I mean, and it's kind of like it's a never-ending cycle of the nationals come in, buy it out, independent either fires up or moves into the market, takes it back over, and then the national buys them out, and it's just a vicious cycle.
It's so crazy how there's so much opportunity there. Like, I don't think you ever really consider the fact that ice would have 40% plus margins, and that's something that would produce hundreds of thousands of dollars. But you see it at every gas station. It's
Yeah.
we walk past these opportunities. We don't realize that these are small businesses that are making really nice money, providing really good jobs. I think this is pretty cool. I never thought about it until we spoke, Nick, and then I was like, shit, man, that's a cool business. No pun intended.
Literally. Yeah.
Well, I know from my business, the gutter business, every morning my crews were buying ice. That was every morning they did that. And I would see like a gas charge, and then I'd see another charge for whatever, $3.79 or $5.70. And I'd say, what are you doing at that gas station? Like, oh, there was no ice. We had to go over there to get ice. I remember that conversation. It happened a lot. That was in my mind. I'm like, these places don't have ice. They're running out of ice. Yeah, I guess they are.
Yeah. It's shocking the urgency that people have for ice too. It's like, yeah, first getting into it, it's like the previous owner, he was just nuts, thinking you need to run around and fill all these people up like this. But I mean, these gas station owners, if they don't have ice, they're losing their minds. And now that I'm in the business, I see that, hey, if we're missing out on selling 100 bags of ice in a day over here, that matters. When we have such a short window of time in our market to sell.
What skill sets do you think are important that's going to help you, that helped you negotiate this deal and then is going to help you scale this business?
I would say, well, my ability to negotiate from just the real estate experience that I have. And I would also say another huge thing that helped me even begin to understand what buying something or different terms that you can present to these sellers is the masterminds. I would have had, and even my business partner who's not super involved in masterminds or anything, great businessman, can operate the back end of a business very, very well. But I'm sitting here telling him, hey, this is the offer that we need to make. And, if he doesn't like this, we can structure it this way or that way. And he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but sounds good. So I would say that was a huge, huge help on that end of things. But then we were kind of talking about it earlier. My ability to just kind of be the bulldog in the business, just pushing things forward, where he's like, I'm out here selling accounts and he's taking now on the back end, like, okay, we're going to need these boxes for these guys. That's X amount of dollars. They need to do, X amount of dollars to make it worth it to put these boxes here. So now he'll analyze that back end of stuff and say, yep, they're worth it. Or, hey, let's start these guys with this. If they keep doing well, we'll do this. So I think we're working really, really well together. And that's really going to push us forward.
So tell me a little bit about the processes inside of this business so we can understand the concept a little better. So you said you've got 3 trucks, 2 drivers, about 5 months out of the year, y'all are operational for the ice. And you got some folks in the plant. So I'm assuming the machine is sitting there cubing it up and spitting it out, and then someone scooping and bagging. What about your answering the calls and the bookkeeping? Can you kind of give us an understanding of virtual assistants? Are y'all handling the calls and the bookkeeping, or is it just your staff sitting in the plant? Like, what does that look like right now?
Yeah, so it's not anything like you would think an ice plant would be like you think scooping ice into a bag. No, and we're still very old school. So there are plants now that are 100% robotic, from the ice machine to the bag, or to the pallet, wrapped in the freezer. And then you got a guy that picks up the pallet, sets it in the freezer, organizes it in the freezer. We're still a little more old school, but that's, like I talked about, the upgrades that we need to do is to get to that point. First off and foremost, get rid of 2 employees for sure. So right now it's ice drops, runs through conveyors into a big bin. We make 10 tons of ice every 24 hours.
Wow.
Which seems like a lot, but there's guys that are 200-ton plants.
Oh.
Especially like down in your guys' areas.
Yeah.
For sure, that they're cranking. So, and then it's conveyors, and it drops 5 pounds of ice into a bag, and you just they're just literally pulling bags, running them through a closer, and then stacking them. So the three guys are doing that. And then we've got 2 guys, the truck drivers, and then we've got our main guy that's also on the truck. He's receiving calls from the customers, and then we've also just got our office phone that takes messages, that kind of deal. We'll get some every once in a while with the customers that we have the relationships with as the owners. But that's kind of the day-to-day operations, is either one of the 3 of us are taking the phone calls and dispatching that end of things. Our main guy came with the business. He has been there for 3 years, so he's got a really good handle on, like I said, those, when you've got events and, hey, these people are gonna run out, he's on top of that stuff for the most part. Back end of the business, my partner works with our bookkeeper, running the back end and payroll. And then I'm kind of, my 20 hours a week is involved in just the logistics of the plant, helping out with that, making sure, the guys that need to show up are showing up, finding somebody else to step in when needed. That's kind of my day-to-day activities.
I was going to ask you how you're handling a small crew like that, because I know when you've got a smaller staff, one person calls in sick, it can really make a ripple effect in your efforts for the day. Do y'all ever have to use temp services, or does it just make the day a little bit longer?
So we've got a really good, and that does happen. Yeah. Every other week, it seems like there's always something, anybody with employees can understand that. But we've got a really good pool between my partner's business and the guys that we have, the high schoolers that we have, or just out of high schoolers that are at the plant, between their buddies and my partner's employees. We've got a couple of his guys that are his kind of like bounce around guys and do the random stuff. They've got trained in the ice plant. So if one of the guys calls in, it's, hey, we usually have somebody that can come in and step up to take their spot.
Everybody's hourly paid employees?
Yeah, hourly right now. We'll see what happens here, but we may be putting our main guy on a salary, just to keep him motivated to show up even in the off months, because, hey, I'm not going to go run around for 4 hours for my hourly pay. Let's just get him a consistent paycheck and kind of help that keep him around.
So on the purchase of did y'all just start a new LLC and transfer all the assets and everything over? Did you have an LLC for the real estate and one for the business, or did everything fall underneath one LLC when you structured it?
So our business structure, we have an LLC holding company that owns the real estate, and then we have an S corp for the business operations. Gotcha. That owns all the assets and is our operating.
And y'all did an asset sale, not a stock sale, correct?
Correct. Yep. Didn't want to carry any of the seller's liabilities over, so sure. New entities.
Good deal. So what do you think's kind of prepped you? I know that you just when you've got that entrepreneurial itch, it shows up through your whole life. You're constantly looking at new opportunities. Um, when you get the capability of jumping on new opportunities, you have to really dial yourself in and discipline so that you don't do the shiny object syndrome. So that's one thing as you do start to grow your wealth. But what's some of the things that kind of prepped you that made you feel like you were going to be a good business owner?
Well, I would say my will to learn, and be around people who are doing and at the point where I want to be, and just hearing them talk about, hey, don't chase this stuff around. Stay focused on what you want to do. And that's going to be a big thing for me, is because, even just starting out in the real estate, flipping houses and then starting to buy some, it's like, hey, I got a little money to go mess around with. I can hop over here, look at this, look at that. And now we've kind of both sat down and said, hey, let's make this our main focus. Let's scale this thing. We think we can do big things with this. Let's really focus on pushing this forward and getting our goals achieved with this company. So
I think one of the most powerful things anyone can do is develop their relationship skills. I realize as I'm growing in entrepreneurship, opportunities constantly come across. And if you've already identified talent, then you can plug talent in and make a really nice win-win for everybody. It's not like you're just owning it, landlording it up on business and real estate. But the problem I've seen with everyone in business is they lack the relationship capital. Those people that they know that are drivers, that are executors, and so then they end up involved in the business so much that when they try to jump to a new opportunity, that the one they left starts suffering because they didn't have it delegated off. That happened to me personally in my disaster cleanup company. I'm very involved in it. It was coasting well. Growth wasn't happening when I started playing real estate investor. But then I started seeing it decline, and I had to jump back in, hire out, and delegate those areas that I was driving, which was sales and operations. I find them further down this journey, the more important that relationship capital is. So at this point, every day I'm looking for someone that's an executor. If I see that they have the characteristics of just getting stuff done, it's something that I'm mentally putting down their name, saying this might be someone that I could partner with on a new venture.
yeah, for sure. And I notice myself doing that more and more, even just to find the executors within this business to be able to remove ourselves from it more and more. Because I mean, we did buy a business that we had to jump into and be active in. I know I hear especially Kevin preach a lot about, buying stuff that's scaled already. I mean, so yeah, that's going to be an important push for us, is to get to that point as fast as possible. Get the growth that we need to get there, that we need to build to get there, to hire the executors, to continue pushing the business forward.
Well, there's so much that you learn in those early days of operating a business. Just realizing people's attitude and how important it is to keep people aligned, incentivized. Otherwise, they just don't push. I mean, when you know if you're clocked in, you're making so much. It's like, where's the motivation at? But if you can earn more based off of your performance, and then also you feel like your voice is heard inside the company, your ideas, and there's an opportunity for you to share your ideas, then you get more buy-in. And I think that's what kind of amazes me about a business. It's easy to look at the numbers and everything, but it's really the people inside the business that make the business. You own systems and you own people. And if you don't pay attention to those systems and those people, then business goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And we have those conversations every day. How can we turn this into a performance-based pay position? And I think we've got long ways to go, a lot of conversations to have on that, but I think we'll be able to get something figured out. And, once it's hard right now to have good conversations with our employees, like, hey, what would keep you motivated? What do you think of this? Just because, I mean, it's full steam ahead right now. So we're looking forward to the fall here, things starting to slow down a little bit, so we can really get a clear picture of what our growth looks like, what these guys need to stay motivated, to help, or to see the same vision that we're on. And just,
well, I think that's important to mention the fact that this is y'all's first year and you've only got 5 months to run. I mean, there's really not any changes you should be making. You should be doing a ton of observing, figuring out what's working, what's not working. And then you've got that off season to sit there and game plan. But your biggest decision to make right now is how do we keep our trucks running so that we don't lose our drivers? Because obviously that's the important labor point of your company. The others are high schoolers, so that's a plentiful area for you to pull from. But the drivers are going to be the ones that are going to be harder to hire for if you lose them. So I think you're playing it right, man. Congratulations on the new business, and I can't wait to circle around next year and see what changes y'all have made, what growth plans, and what new territories you're starting to take over.
yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. It's been exciting. It's a good ride, and I'm happy to be in the business world now, versus just buying and selling real estate all the time. It's just the whole scalability of businesses is what just excites me a lot.
Yep.
We feel the same way. Nick, how do people get in touch with you?
I'm on Instagram. I think it's just Nic Zerfas, Nic Zerfas 2, something like that. Facebook, Nic Zerfas. Happy to chat about if anybody's got an ice plant that they're looking at or is involved in that business. Would love to chat, hear what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah, if you're doing over $1 million in revenue on the ice plant, and it doesn't matter where it's located, Nick's a player.
Yeah.
All right, man. We appreciate your time. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Nick.
Your story.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Talk to you.
We'll see you millionaires later.